The first time the lights dimmed on the people stage, no one noticed the man standing at the edge of the curtain. His name was Daniel Cross, and he had spent years believing that magic was about tricks, misdirection, applause, and escape. But that night, as the low hum of anticipation filled the theater, he sensed something different waiting to unfold, something far bigger than sleight of hand. Magic entered his life quietly, through a battered deck of cards gifted by a neighbor who said nothing except, "Sometimes people need Eve, and something impossible." Daniel practiced in secret, not to impress, but to feel control in a world that often felt overwhelming. Every shuffle became a promise that maybe life could surprise you in a good way. Years later, after countless small gigs and lonely motel rooms, Daniel was invited to the people stage, a place known not just for talent, but for stories that reached across borders. He wasn't the headline act. He was simply one of 6 performers scheduled to appear that night. Each carried their own version of hope, fear, and quiet desperation. Backstage, Daniel noticed them all, though none spoke much. There was a young woman clutching a silk scarf like a lifeline, an older man polishing a cracked mirror, a teenage boy rehearsing hand movements with trembling precision, a middle-aged mother whispering a prayer, and a street magician whose eyes carried a kind of gentle sadness. As the curtain rose for the first act, Daniel watched from the shadows. The young woman stepped into the light, her voice shaking as she introduced herself. She spoke about losing her home in a wildfire and finding comfort in magic when everything else burned away. Her act was simple, almost fragile, yet when a single white dove appeared from her empty hands, the audience gasped, not because of the trick, but because of what it represented. Hope, rising intact from ashes. Daniel felt his chest tighten as applause washed over her. The second act followed, and the older man took the stage. The trick ended with the mirror showing his own reflection, tears and all. Silence fell. Then applause that felt like forgiveness made audible. Daniel realized the people stage wasn't about fooling the eyes. It was about touching the parts of people they rarely showed. When the teenage boy performed, his hands moved faster than thought, coins vanishing and reappearing with astonishing grace. Halfway through, he paused and spoke about being told he was too awkward, too quiet, too invisible. He said magic was the first time people looked at him and stayed looking. As the final coin transformed into a small metal heart, the audience erupted. Not because they were amazed, but because they understood what it meant to finally be seen. Daniel's turn was coming closer, and instead of calm, he felt fear rising. He had planned something ambitious, a sequence of illusions meant to escalate with each act. But suddenly the tricks felt hollow. He thought of his neighbor S. words from long ago and wondered if he had forgotten the point. Magic wasn't meant to impress. It was meant to connect. The realization landed heavy, and for the first time, Daniel considered changing everything at the last moment. Before he could think further, the middle-aged mother walked onto the stage. She spoke softly about her son, who was watching from a hospital bed miles away. She performed a rope trick, cutting and restoring it while talking about how life can break you and still leave room to be mended. At the end, she held up a small camera feed, showing her son smiling through tears. The audience stood as one, applause mingled with quiet sobs. Daniel felt his own eyes burn. Then came the street magician, the one with gentle sadness in his eyes. His act was raw and unpolished, filled with pauses that felt intentional. He spoke about living on the streets for years, invisible to most, until someone stopped one night just to ask his name. His magic involved borrowed objects, wallets, watches, rings, each returned with care. The final reveal was simple, a handwritten note that read, "You matter." The audience didn't just applaud. They believed him. By the time Daniel's name was announced, the air in the theater felt electric and tender all at once. He stepped into the light, heart racing, and looked out at the sea of faces. For a moment, he forgot every trick he had practiced. He saw people holding hands, wiping tears, leaning forward not for spectacle, but for meaning. Daniel took a breath and made a decision that would change everything. He began by telling the truth. He spoke about growing up afraid of disappointment, about chasing applause instead of purpose. He said he had planned to show them 6 impossible illusions, but standing there, he realized the greatest magic wasn't in his hands. It was in theirs. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as he invited 6 audience members onto the stage, strangers from different walks of life. Daniel asked them simple questions, listening carefully to their answers. A nurse exhausted from night shifts, a veteran missing his sense of direction, a single father worried he wasn't enough, a college student buried in debt, a retiree feeling forgotten, a young girl dreaming bigger than she dared to say out loud. Daniel used their stories as the foundation of his act. The magic unfolded quietly. A blank deck of cards printed their names one by one. A torn bill restored itself as he spoke about resilience. A compass needle spun wildly before settling steady in the veteran's hand. Each illusion was woven with words of empathy, acknowledgement, and respect. The audience watched, breath held, not because they were trying to catch the trick, but because they recognized themselves in it. As the act built, Daniel reached into his pocket and revealed 6 envelopes. Inside each was something unexpected. Not money, not prizes, but opportunities. A paid month of childcare donated anonymously. A scholarship fund quietly established. A community program connection. A handwritten letter from someone who believed in them. Daniel explained that months earlier, he had reached out to local organizations, asking how magic could serve people instead of the other way around. The emotional climax came when Daniel turned to the young girl. He asked her what she dreamed of being. She whispered that she wanted to help people feel less alone. Daniel handed her a small mirror, the same kind the older magician had used earlier. As she looked into it, words appeared, clear and glowing. "You already do." The girl smiled, and the audience broke into tears and applause that seemed to lift the room itself. In that moment, something shifted. The people stage was no longer a place of performance. It became a shared space of humanity, where compassion was the real illusion, generosity the true reveal. Daniel felt lighter than he ever had, as if years of striving had finally led him home. As the curtain fell, the 6 acts blended into one story, a reminder that magic isn't about making people believe in impossible things, but about helping them remember what's possible in each other. Backstage, the performers embraced, strangers no longer, connected by something unspoken yet deeply understood. And as Daniel stepped outside into the cool night air, he realized that the 6 magic acts no one would believe weren't about deception at all. They were about kindness made visible, humanity brought into the light, and the quiet, enduring truth that when we choose compassion, we all become a little more magical.